Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a brand new episode of A Definitive Discussion Rebooted, my talk show podcast where I bring on phenomenal individuals from all different corners of the internet and YouTube, and they come on the show to come talk with me about game stuff, talk to me about some interesting stuff that we could deep dive into. If you guys have been enjoying all the episodes here on the channel, if you haven't checked them out, check out the playlist, because it's there right now. There's a bunch of new episodes with a whole bunch of great guests, as well as also, don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon page. Remember, at the dollar level or higher, you're going to get a ton of exclusive content, including the bonus EX modes, which is like a supplemental to this show where we talk about even more good stuff that you guys want to hear about. So again, check all that stuff out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment down below. But today I got a brand new guest who's part of GameOverJesse's crew, who's also a big Nintendo fan. I've got Chewbleema, who's also a YouTube content creator, YouTuber, streamer, and does all this other stuff. Chew, what's good? How you doing?
Hey, Jakejames, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited to be hanging out and guesting with you today. And you know what? Things are going pretty good. I'm getting a lot of time catching up on all my video games right now.
Which is cool. And this is cool for me too, because we've talked before, because I was on GameOverJesse's show with you and everybody else a while back, but we never got to talk me at you a little bit more, just on game stuff in general. So it's kind of a little bit more of a treat for me. It's pretty fun. But
yeah, exactly.
So at least tell me, because the topic that we're going to discuss today, you know, which I feel like everybody's talking about it in some way, but like I wanted to kind of cover it at least with my own flavor and my own approach. You know, obviously the isolation and the different stuff that's going on right now in the world, especially here in the United States, because we're here in the States now, and it's like, or at least in North America, I should say, and it's pretty wild out here. So everybody's home, everybody's kind of bored, or at least, you know, those who haven't been playing like games like Animal Crossing, maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake, and other stuff, but everybody's home right now gaming. I mean, are you doing the same thing?
Oh, exactly. And honestly, right now, I honestly can say that I'm very thankful that I'm into video games. If I weren't, I have no idea what I would be doing right now.
I'd be bored, straight up.
I'd be so bored.
I mean,
I'd be like
again,
making bread or something.
You got Netflix, though. I mean, we got Funimation apps. We got a whole bunch of streaming apps. We got Disney Plus. Something.
Yeah, that's true. I could be binge watching, but you know, I've been leaning heavily on video games for sure.
That's good. At least for me, I've been doing multiple as far as like, you know, playing games, you know, both for pleasure and for work, but also streaming stuff whenever I can. But the reason why I bring it up with us is because we're going to talk about Nintendo gaming now, specifically during the pandemic and during the stuff that's going on at the current moment with current events. I mean, we're recording this at this point in time, right at the end of like April, you know, at least with April about to be wrapped up and such, and things are still going down. And for a lot of people, luckily for us, you know, when all this started to happen, we had a couple good releases pop up, specifically Animal Crossing New Horizons. I mean, are you playing it right now?
Oh, absolutely. I've put many hours into Animal Crossing. I'm a very big Animal Crossing fan. I even got the limited edition, so yeah, I was pretty amped up for it.
That's cool. Well, me, I am not. I avoided getting put into debt by Tom Nook. See, I saw a whole bunch. I was even talking about this on Twitter. I was like, listen, I am not going to I'm going to be living bell debt free right now from Tom Nook, because everybody that I know is getting nooked right now. Like everybody is owing Tom Nook some bells and such. But that aside, all joking aside, for you, what is it about Animal Crossing that's been really good for you, at least now in this point in time? Because obviously the game and the series is like super addicting for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've been playing Animal Crossing since, like, the original came out 2001 on GameCube, so I'm a big fan of Animal Crossing. And for me, like, it's really just, like, it sounds bad. This is like a life simulation game, except I am a human in a world full of animals, and a lot of the regular rules of life just don't apply there. Yeah. And I think that's just really what speaks out to me. And it's one of those, like, you sit down and, like, just like so much creativity that you can do with it. And I'd say like games like Minecraft or Terraria, it helps build your creativity, and it helps you think outside of the box of what normal would be for any simulation type game, really. And that's why I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a chill game. It's a game that you could just chill.
It is such a chill game. You put your feet up, you start playing that game. You're not worried about, you're worried about tarantulas maybe coming after you, but that's honestly the biggest concern, right?
or catching beetles, or trying to dig for fossils, all these different things. A lot of people fishing, right? And what's the deal with these turnips? Like, granted, again, I haven't played the game. Everybody's got a stock market of turnips going on right now. Like, it's like, I see this all the time on Twitter. I'm like, what? And I feel like an idiot because obviously I'm out of the loop. But everybody right now has got their tax hats on. They got business suits. They're trying to figure out turnip prices. What the hell?
Yeah, it's Wall Street turnips, absolutely.
You know what? That's the best way to describe it. Wall Street turnips. Somebody's got to make a shirt of that now. There you go.
It's Wall Street turnips. It's gonna be like a Reddit like post or something like that. It's gonna be great.
I want to see that at PAX. I want to see that at E3. That's like almost too perfect of a term, because that's literally how people have been acting with this game, especially with the turnips. Because I'll see people post up on Twitter like, "Hey, where are those turnip prices at?" Or people will be on their Discords like, "Yo, show me your turnip prices," or "Come visit my town or my little island and stuff, so you could just get those turnips or the other items that they get put on the market and stuff."
I even pay attention to like mainstream media. Elijah Wood apparently plays Animal Crossing and went to someone else's island to buy or to sell his turnips, which is just like crazy. I can't imagine. I would have lost it if Elijah Wood came to my town.
That means also that, let's keep it real, like Elijah Wood is probably mad bored at home right now. Like he's just there, because all those celebs, especially someone like him, he's got other important things to do. He's making movies or doing something with movies in some way, in some regard. Yeah. But he's got to be like mad bored at home. He's like, you know what? Hell with it. Let's just go hang out in this furry town, in this little isolated getaway, or whatever. Even though I'm mad bored at home and such. But let me ask you this though: has your enjoyment of the game with things happening now, has it been a little bit different because of everything that's been happening?
Really say so. I would say like probably the hardest thing for me was a lot of people weren't working when the game came out, so a lot of people managed to put in like 100, 200 hours, and I was still working and working very much an essential job, so I can't play like other people do. Like I come home and I play for about an hour or two, and that's as much as I can really afford in the day. And I knew that coming into the game. When the game launched the first weekend, I did nothing but play this game because I needed to absorb as much content as I possibly could before it got ruined for me on Twitter.
Oh yeah, because of the spoilers and everything else. Like people on the internet, especially on Twitter, are vicious when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was even that bad when this game came out. Like any other Nintendo game, it's like, a free-for-all. Whether it's Zelda, whether it's Pokemon, Smash Brothers, it's just, it's raining cats and dogs outside with it. But with this one, everybody seems very chill. Like very nice, very relaxed. I mean, outside of the turnip prices and things and stuff, but like still, everybody's kind of chill.
I'd say turnip prices and time traveling, touchy subjects, we don't go near those.
Yeah, right? But the reason why I bring that up is because I feel like with certain games, especially Final Fantasy VII Remake, granted that came out, actually no, it did come out when everything was like, in full force, when people were on lockdown and such. Like, these games, now that they've been coming out and people have been spending time with it because they almost have nothing else really to do if they're not working, or if they're not able to go outside or do other stuff. You start to see a lot more conversations on Twitter, on social media about games in general. Especially for Nintendo games, a lot of people that aren't really hardcore in our industry, probably if they're not fans of like PlayStation or just like certain games on like the Xbox platform, more than likely they're Nintendo fans when it comes to anything related to games. So you're starting to see people talk and discuss and interact about this stuff a little bit more often now that they're home. I mean, do you notice that in your neck of the woods?
Oh, absolutely. And, it's one of those things, it's funny you mentioned, like, people that might not be into Xbox or PlayStation. At my time, like, when I was working at Nintendo, they very much said that they weren't in competition with other video game companies or other developers. They were in competition with time. That's the only thing that was really holding them back, and why they were, like, that's what affected their numbers, is, like, people watching Netflix, people watching Disney+. That's what they were competing with. So it is really nice seeing, like, all of these people who aren't traditional, like, hardcore gamers, people that hang out and they do it, like, as a side job, as a side hobby, or anything like that. And so it's been really nice seeing all of these different people coming in and enjoying a game that I've enjoyed for so long.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it, because I've heard that in different places before about Nintendo competing with time. A game like Animal Crossing is, you spend nothing but time in that game. Like, literally, like, it's that. Breath of the Wild is like that. Smash Brothers is like that. I would even say Splatoon 2, where you're playing it, again and again and again for various different reasons, whether it's, to get through certain scenarios, DLC, or just multiplayer online. In this case with Animal Crossing, it's heavily influenced by the online multiplayer and the interactions that you have with other, like, peoples and stuff, and the communication you have with that is something that I just don't see a lot of in other games from other companies, especially even on PlayStation. And I'm not even talking about like RPGs that are like 30, 40, 50 plus hours, because again, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out not too long ago, and that's a game that's kind of like that. But compared to something like Animal Crossing, that it's like recurring, it's almost like an evergreen type of game. You could always go back to it and spend a ridiculous amount of time and still get so much enjoyment out of it.
Oh, absolutely. And especially like given the current like circumstances and being in, kind of a solitude right now, a lot of people are, they're going to Animal Crossing to host their birthday parties, their like celebrations, anything
Concerts.
that
I saw.
concerts. Yeah, Grimecraft has been doing concerts on Animal
That
Crossing.
was
And honestly,
weird.
it is just so cool seeing what people can come up with, and like people are doing like nightly like night markets, and it is just really cool to see what the community is doing and how people are coming together in a way where we can't normally do it, but we're doing it in a virtual reality instead.
It's weird because I mean a lot of it is pretty cool and clever more than anything else besides creative, but really clever, that the different things people could do. I mean, I saw a guy try to do a WWE entrance theme or entrance like thing with Animal Crossing. I was like, wow, okay, people are really bored and they're really spending time trying to figure this
Oh
stuff out.
no.
I mean, it's funny. It made me laugh. It was like, okay, that was kind of funny and stuff. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but you know what's interesting though, and I have to ask this because I feel like maybe not a lot of people are asking it. If we weren't going through this pandemic, if we weren't going through this lockdown everywhere, again, it's not just here in the North America, it's everywhere. Would people be really kind of like interacting with this game, not just Animal Crossing, but any games like this in the same way? And I don't think so because obviously our circumstances have changed so drastically.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. I would honestly see it as like no offense to people that aren't like, core gamers, but I'd say like people that eat Nintendo content no matter what it is, they're the ones that would, this would still be normal for. But we've gone above and beyond. We're sold out of Nintendo Switch consoles everywhere. I think we're experiencing something very different right now, and I don't know if that's just hoarding or if everyone just really wants to play Nintendo Switch right now.
I think it's a combination of things because also keep in mind there's also a chip shortage. I think in Asia, with making new consoles. Because granted, we got PlayStation. I think also Xbox are getting ready to make their new consoles, and that's like causing all sorts of problems. And then you throw all this stuff with the pandemic on there, with the factories and all this other stuff that's going on. I think it's a cavalcade of different things that are just making things the way they are now. On top of whatever we got available at the moment, that's like what we have to work with. And at least it's still at least cool for us because there's already so many Switches out in the wild. At least if we're just sticking to Nintendo, there's already so many consoles out in the wild, and it's so easy to get access to for a lot of people. And there's also, luckily for us, a lot to play on Nintendo Switch, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably what just made it a lot easier for a lot of people. Definitely, like, if you're not, like, normally consuming this content, I can't see a lot of people going out of their way to consume it, like Animal Crossing and, putting 300 hours in. I just don't see it. It's not realistic.
So let me ask you this then. As we go forward, because again, we're in April, towards the end of April, going into May now, as this thing starts to go on and we're still in lockdown, do you feel like other games that were probably scheduled for May, June, July, are they probably going to do better or a little bit better than what they probably would have done if it wasn't for this, lockdown? Like, are they, because of the lockdown, do you think like more people are going to end up playing those games? Because, I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head that are coming out for Switch specifically, but let's just, for the sake of argument right now.
That's a really good question. And, we are thinking about big events that would be coming up, like E3 in June. That isn't happening. And so naturally, we're going to be seeing some games that should be coming out or even just talking about it and having the conversation. And that being said, I feel like because people have so much time right now, if a game comes out, they're probably more likely to buy it and give it a try. I feel like the only thing that's really going to be holding people back at this point is if you're very attached to having a physical copy of a game. I know people are very attached to that
Sure.
opposed to getting the digital download, so that might be the only thing that holds people back.
Funny enough that you mentioned that. I want to spin off of that because even more recently, I've bought a couple games, with the whole stimulus thing and everything. I've been able to buy a couple games I've wanted to actually see, because of the extra income. And other people, despite whatever challenges they're going through, some of them have been able to do something similar, especially if they're picking up games like Animal Crossing or whatever else on their platforms. Do you feel like, is there going to be more impulse buys for a lot of people? Because that's happened to me more recently. It actually happened today because of the big Japan sale that's going on PSN. I bought a couple $5 or $3 games. I was like, oh, okay, I'll pick this up. It was like, what, $19.99 before? It's like, what, $3? Hell yes, I'll pick that up.
Oh, awesome.
But like, there'll be moments like that for me. And I feel like, okay, as we start to, keep staying in this isolation and things go on, is that going to go a little bit more often with games that are, on the eShop or games that are on PSN or Xbox Live, even for games that are coming out, digitally and physically? Because Trials of Mana just came out and it's multi-platform. It's also on Nintendo Switch like that, and it's the same price now as it is in stores as it is on the eShop. I mean, are we going to see more buys like that?
Yeah, honestly, like I would probably say so, and you're right. Like a lot of people doing that impulse shopping, that makes sense, right? We're in a time where you're isolated, you're at home. You are gonna have a lot of extra money if you're still, working and
True.
making income because you're not going out and being social, like going out to eat, spending money that normally you kind of count for, and now you just don't have to. So if you're still maintaining your job during all of this kind of quarantine that's happening, amazing, but you're gonna need a place to spend it. And honestly, it's gonna be impulse shopping, whether it be like online like clothes shopping or video games, right?
It's funny too because I saw somebody having a conversation about this a little while back. I want to say about a couple weeks ago, where they were saying that there was something that came up involving somebody asking, should Nintendo or any of the game companies now that have platforms like eShop, PSN, Xbox Live, should there be more sales? And I thought about it and I was like, something? I feel like they're leaving a lot of money on the table with games that they could put on sale now, especially for the big sales, like the big in Japan sale for PSN, or even some of the flash sales on eShop or even on Steam, that people will want to pick up some of the stuff, especially if it's like really cheap for some of these games that might be older or might have been around for a while, at least, maybe came out within the last like 3 or 4 months. I feel like there's money being left on the table by these companies. Do you feel similar?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The only thing I can think of is that, especially with Nintendo, they hold their IPs like so near and dear, and like a lot of them, they've never gone on sale. They never go down on price. And people ask all the time, they come up to me when I'm at work, like when I used to work at Nintendo, and they're like, hey, like, do you ever see this going on sale? And no, if it's anything, especially Pokemon related, Pokemon's never going to drop in price.
Or Mario.
But
Mario's
yeah. Pokemon, Mario, and it's honestly like I feel like that's a really big missed opportunity because right now there's so many people that could be consuming that content, and maybe the only thing holding them back is like, this game's been out for 5 years, but it's still $80.
So do you think that's an arrogance thing, or is that like protecting the brand, value type of thing? Again, we're just sticking to Nintendo because you could put that question to any of the brands out there, any of the
absolutely
companies. But with Nintendo, because they seem to be the most stubborn about it, or at least the one that they stick to their guns like that. I mean, I saw Super Mario 3D Worlds or Super Mario Odyssey. For a while that game was almost still full price. Same thing, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that game is still full price. That was around the time of the launch. Breath of the Wild, same thing. Granted, again, you can say what you want about the quality and the types of games that these are, but the fact is these games have been around for a good while, and normally other titles out there would get a little bit of a discount for people to like pick it up if they haven't already by this point. Do you feel like those, like Nintendo, should Nintendo have like a Mario sale? Like, guess what? Like Super Mario Odyssey gets like 10 or 20 bucks off, from like $59.99, or like on the eShop there's like all these classic Mario games. Let's knock them down to like below $5. Should they be doing something like that?
Yeah, no, I really think that they should be, and the only time they really do is during like any holiday sale. So, for instance, like I know Christmas last season was a lot of like if you buy a Nintendo Switch, then a lot of these games are going to be cut down in price, which is a good drawing point because you're going to go, okay, this is my first console. These are some really strong IPs that are everyone's been raving about, and I can buy them at a lower price point. And I feel like I have no idea why they don't do sales. Like, I know that if they did it, they would absolutely crush it, but they don't. And I haven't figured out the reasoning for it yet. I know for sure Pokemon Company is just very strict and very hard to deal with, and that's why they don't do sales. Like, Pokemon Company, like they're the one company that they will never do an early launch for a game, and they don't even want people reviewing their game. They are just so protective of their baby.
I can attest to that. I would even say that about Nintendo proper, because again, with my experience with the different websites I've been at, dealing with Nintendo PR and stuff, again, that's like a whole 3-hour conversation in of itself, but it could be very difficult sometimes to like cover games like that. And I can understand the frustration with some people that go into that type of stuff. What I also think maybe it's a Japanese thing, a Japanese publisher type of thing, because you never hardly ever hear about this type of stuff when it comes to sales, specifically not about reviewing games, but like the sales and access to games a little bit easier over time when, for different types of games out there. For Western audiences or for Western publishers, I almost never hear about that.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's kind of one of those like, like this is a really like full price game still. And a lot of the time we do see like remasters or updated versions. And maybe that's part of the reason, like they just don't feel the need to bring it down yet.
I agree. And I think that's probably never going to change. Nintendo's an old school company. Again, they've been around like close to about, I think it's over 100 years now, or close to 100 years, something of that nature. as a company. They've been around for a hot minute. So
yeah, exactly. They really stick to their guns.
shit, seriously, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up on Google. People, look up the Hanafune cards or the gambling cards from Nintendo from the 1800s.
Goodness,
that is like that's the OG Nintendo. But anyway. Okay, here's a good way to wrap this up. What do you want to see more of, either from companies or just in general, from gaming, in some way, with the crisis and the pandemic stuff and the isolation stuff still going on? Like, what should be happening now moving forward as we keep going on with these months that everybody's still on lockdown?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, like, okay, so this is not Nintendo related, but this is a really good example of how I feel other companies should be handling this. I was playing Heroes of the Storm. It's a Blizzard MOBA game, and they had basically done it for a couple of weeks where, because everyone was in isolation, all of the characters you could play were free to play. You didn't have to buy any of them. None of them were behind a price wall or anything. So you got to try them out and really just kind of, experience the game for what it is at face value without having to be held back by any of that price wall.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, to help with video games and what's happening right now, and with so many people having so much time to themselves and so much time at home to be consuming content, is, like give us those things that are behind paywalls and normally we wouldn't experience. Heck, even like a demo or something that's going to draw us into it. Something that's going to help us go like, okay, like, you know what? I've sunk my teeth in. I like this. I want the rest of it.
I've seen that from a couple companies that have been doing that. Even today, or not today, actually yesterday at the time we're recording this, Bandai Namco put out Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, I think it was, or Championship Remix 2. And I also saw that Sony gave everybody, for a period of time, they gave everybody Journey, and they gave everybody the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. Like, stuff like that I think is very cool. Granted, they're not brand new games, and I mean, most people that have been in the ecosystem have played them and stuff, but it's still something extra for anybody that hasn't picked it up, or anybody that probably hasn't even picked it up digitally could still have it there in their library. And to me, I think that's pretty cool. And I have yet to see anything like that from Nintendo. Like, straight up, not even like a big sale. I've seen third-party game sales on the eShop. Like, I know that there was a Square Enix one at one point not too long ago for like a lot of the JRPGs and a few others, like just randomly on there. But like Nintendo proper, I've yet to see something like that done.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that would just really speak out to people and be really helpful. And like you said, even like Uncharted games, like even if that's a game that someone hasn't played before, that's going to be like, that game has amazing replay value, and that's something that we should be looking for other like video games as well.
I agree. So either way though, Chew, thanks for so much for coming to talk with me about Nintendo stuff in this crazy time that we're living in right now, which is nuts. Where can everybody find you? You're on the socials, right?
Yeah, I'm on the socials. Again, thank you so much for having me here, Jakejames. Super appreciate it. You can find me normally once a week. We do a podcast with the Hylian Gamescast on GameOverJesse's YouTube channel. I'm also on Twitter at Chewbleema. And if you ever feel like popping in, I also do Twitch streams as well. I normally just try to do it whenever I have some free time, mostly Nintendo-based. It's twitch.tv/Chewbleema, CHEWBLEEMAA.
Go check that stuff out. Go send her some owl hugs. Go send her some great owl hugs, because it's Nintendo themed with all their stuff. It's got to be the great owl from Zelda. It can't just be regular owl hugs. So you get a whole bunch of pictures, just send it to her on Twitter or something. But go check that stuff out. There'll be links down below in the description box so you guys can see all that stuff. Again, thanks so much for chatting up with me. Guys, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this episode, and also any suggestions of future episodes you guys want to see. Me and Chew are going to talk a little bit more on EX mode about some more Nintendo stuff, so make sure you subscribe over to my Patreon page. You guys could join at the $1 level or higher, and you're going to get that extra episode that we're going to do now, plus a whole bunch of other exclusive content that's gaming related and a bunch of other great stuff. But from both of us here, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.